Alright, welcome to part 3 of the tier list series, official tier list. This is every Magic the Gathering 5-color commander from up to Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. Preface, as you know, this is all objective fact, and if you disagree with me, you're objectively wrong. The conditions for this one, how I'm going to be ranking them, is completely arbitrary, and it's just how I feel like it. So first up, you've got Tayamat. I'm going to put Tayamat in the A tier. Tayamat's one of those commanders where it's Dragon Tribal, but it's hipster is the thing. Because you're going to do Dragon Tribal, not just play the Earth Dragon, but you got to play Tayamat because that's the one that is less played, and that is cool in my book. Also, anything that lets you tutor for cards is usually really good, and Tayamat lets you do that. Also, it's a big freaking dragon, and it's named Tayamat. Like, it's Tayamat. How can you not play Tayamat? It's not like Tayamat. Next is Chromat. That's not Chromat. This one's C tier. I'm going to be honest. This one is hipster, and it's very little played. But, I mean, come on. Like, it doesn't do anything. It's just a 5-color, like, vanilla creature, pretty much. The abilities don't really do much. You're going to need the mana to activate the abilities, and you want to hold up the mana to activate those abilities. You're not going to use those to play any cards. And it's just an inefficient attacker. It's bad defense. And unlike other fun jank commanders that we'll get into, it just doesn't have the same oomph, because those ones, like, you could point to them and say, hey, they're doing something. This one just doesn't do anything. But it is janky and it is hipster, so C. I said all that, I'm actually moving down to D tier because I do what I want. Next is to say Weatherlight Captain. This one is going straight into the B tier. This one is B because when I want a 5-color commander, I want a commander that's really hard to play. But when I play it, it does something really, really cool, and everyone's like, wow, that's so cool. Why'd you do that? And that's awesome. And then you win. This one has all that stuff except for the being hard to play part. So it kind of was that wow factor. You kind of just cast this on turn 2 or whatever. That being said, I did mention with Tayamat, tutoring is cool, which is why it's up here. But what isn't cool is when your deck is the exact same every time, where you play Sisei, get her up to 1 billion power, and then just tutor out an infinite combo and win. So if you do that, you're poo-poo. If you don't do that and you use it to play really cool big legendary creatures or do a Legends Matter deck, then you're awesome. So B tier. Najeel with the Blade Blossom. I'm going to be honest, I have actually never seen this card in play. I know it's one of the most popular commanders, and I played a lot of Commander, but I have never, ever seen anyone play this card, which is really weird. So I don't really know how to judge it. So when I don't know how to judge something, I put it in D tier. Next, above Chromat, though, because at least this one does something. Next is Sign of the Earth Dragon. This one is super cool. I'm going to put up here a Tayamat. I don't know if it's above or below it. I'd probably say it's below because repeated tutoring is stupid. But also, Tayamat gives you more cards. The Sign of the Earth Dragon is only temperate. I don't know. We'll just leave it up there. Dragons are cool. They're big and scary, and they fly. And it's also funny to make Utari Hellkites. Next up is Okagachi Vengefulkami. On one hand, the hipster in me wants to put this in S tier because this commander is really, really bad. But on the other side, the hipster inside of me also wants like a card that does something like Chromat. That's hipster, but doesn't do anything. This one actually does do something. It exiles stuff, and it's a flying trampler. But that requires people to attack you, which they're not going to do because you have a massive flying trampler. And if they are going to swing at you through your massive flying trampler, they probably have enough to destroy you, and you only get to exile one thing. Like, come on. I'll just put it in C tier. It is a spirit, so Spirit Tribal is awesome. But, if it was, like, bigger or did some cooler stuff, then it would be further up. But as of now, it's just too expensive for what it gives. Next up, we have the Ur Dragon. This one is... I'm just going to put it with the other dragons. I'm going to put it in between. I think Tayamat's cooler because it's Tayamat, and the Ur Dragon's better because he's not Scion of the Ur Dragon. The Ur Dragon's cool because as soon as you cast it, you kind of win the game if you get another combat step. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. Also, Imminence is broken. Next, we have Ramos Dragon Engine. One of my closest Magic the Gathering buddies plays Ramos, and I will say this guy's going straight into Hell tier. If you're watching this, you know who you are. I despise playing against this deck. It is the actual worst because what happens is they cast Ramos, and then what you do is when it comes back to their turn, their best counterplay is to go up to your room and make a sandwich, and then eat that, and then wait for 2 hours, and then come back, and then they'll like they'll go to combat. They'll exit their first main phase, and then you declare blocks, and you go back up, and then you like watch YouTube videos or something, and then you come back down an hour, and then they finally pass their turn, and then they have all their permanents on the board. Like, why though? Why? And they have a 100 flyer. Like, come on. I did encounter this guy online who had a really cool Ramos deck where it was I think it was energy. That was pretty funny. But I mean, come on, I hate this guy. Hell tier. Child of Alara. This is like Okagachi in that it's kind of janky, but also I think it's better because the effect is actually potent. This is one that people aren't going to want to block because you're going to blow up the board. And usually, if you make your deck around indestructible, you're going to be on the winning side. That's a secret trick people don't know is you want to do indestructible. Also, I think it's a better Spirit Tribal because it actually does something, and it's also a board wipe in the command zone, which is actually cool. So I think I'm going to put this guy up in the B tier above Sisei. Doesn't get any higher because, you know, I've never seen this card. I've never played against it. I've used it, but I've never played against it. And I don't know, it doesn't have that like a wow factor that a lot of other cooler cards do. Next we have Jodah, Archmage Eternal. I'm conflicted on this one because I have played against this a few times. And every time, and among those times, I've seen Jodah activated like twice because whenever someone plays this card, it gets immediately removed. Well, I guess that's just how it is with a commander that lets you cheat in anything into play. Cheating stuff into play is fun though, but also an issue is that you have to pay Wooburg for those costs. So if you're going to cheat in like a big like mono, if your goal is to cheat in something like a Blightsteel Colossus, that's your whole game plan. It'll be easier if you just played colorless and ramped up to it than tried to assemble all 5 colors. Additionally, it's still 5 mana. Like you're casting something that's 8 mana for 5. Well, you just save 3 mana. Like your commander is a Thrawn Dynamo. Good job, you did it. That's not to say it's like bad though. There's a lot of combo potential with stuff that untaps, and also his name is Jodah, which is fun to say. I'm gonna put him at the bottom of C tier. Next up we have Kenneth the Return King, Hell tier. Next up we have Gigantha the Wellspring. This is S tier. It's everything I wanted Okagachi to be. It's underplayed. It's janky. No one bats an eye when they see it. They'll be like, "What are you doing?" But it actually does stuff. It pumps out a lot of mana, and this is perfect for a Legends Matter deck. Not because it actually cares about Legends, but because it's funny. And that's what I mean. Something like Okagachi, this is going to be kind of dissolved into a rant about jank in general. When I'm a jank player, I like playing jank decks. I have a Broodkeeper combo deck. I have a Seki Seasons Guide deck. I have a Kotos deck. But playing jank doesn't do anything is funny for like 3 turns, and then you're just playing a deck that does nothing. When I have a jank deck, I want it to be able to actually do stuff and win the game in a way that's unconventional. Okagachi, far from doing nothing, it's a huge creature still that flies and tramples and exiles stuff. But if I was playing something like Chromat, that's cool and all, but that doesn't do anything. This one is cool and all, is hipster, but it also does stuff. Like, it generates mana. So, that's why side rant over. Gigantha is cool. I have a Gigantha deck. It was one of the first actual decks I ever built. And yeah, it was pretty fun. Next one, I'm going to go back to Kenrith. If you play this card, I hate you. A lot of people tell me about their casual Kenrith decks. Those don't exist. All of them are combo decks where you generate infinite mana and instantly win the game. So if you play this card, you're a horrible person. So just keep that in mind. I never want to see it. Next I have Eskaga the Tree / Prismatic Bridge. I don't know whether to put this in Hell tier or S tier, because on one end, if you play this card casually, like actually casual deck, or like God Tribal or something, then it's actually awesome and cool. But if you use this any other way, I hate you. So, I don't know, I'm just going to flip a coin. Here. If it's heads, I'll put it in Hell tier. If it's tails, I'll put it in S tier. Okay, it was heads, so I'll put it in S tier. Pretty cool. I don't actually remember what I said I'd do, but I'm putting it in S tier. God Tribal is the only way you're allowed to play this deck, or like uber casual. If you don't do that, and you play the Prismatic Bridge side, then never talk to me again. Next up, we have the Sliver Overlord, I believe it's called. The text is actually too small for me to read, but I'm pretty sure that's what it says. So, this one gives all your slivers indestructible. Now, here's the issue with that, is that if you're playing a deck whose purpose is to give your other creatures indestructible, I mean, at that point, you might as well just play, like, Darksteel Plate or something. I get it, it's slivers and all that, but if you want a 5-color Sliver Commander, the first Sliver is more optimal, and Sliver Legion is more jank, so I don't know why you'd ever play this. That being said, though, indestructibility is funny until you get hit by a Descent Upon the Sinful. So, I guess I'll just put this at the top of C tier. Actually, I'll put it below Okagachi. So, next up, we've got Morphon the Boundless. This goes right up into God tier. You better believe it. This is... I'll slow down a bit. This is the one of the coolest commanders ever because it allows you to play any tribe you want. You want to play Basilisk Tribal, Naga Tribal, Gorgon Tribal. I don't know any other obscure Golgari tribes. Bird Tribal. Shapeshifter Tribal if you wanted to. Noble Tribal. I don't care. You can play any tribal deck with this guy as your commander. He opens up so much opportunity without being ridiculously overpowered. And that's what's great. Because it appeals to people like me who are hipsters and want to do stuff like play, I don't know, Salamander Tribal. But it also appeals to people who want to do something like, I don't know, play Human Tribal and actually win the game. Or even people in the middle who want to do something like Pirate Tribal and do something really funny. So, yeah, easy God tier. Next up, we have the first Sliver. This one is one that I am tempted to put into Hell tier because if you cast this card and then you cast another card, you win the game. That being said, Slivers are funny, so I don't know. It doesn't have the same like instant interpretation as these because with this one you can like cascade into a ramp spell, and also you can get hit by a board wipe and instantly lose. So I'll put it in the bottom of D tier. It's pretty close to Hell tier, but not quite close. Next up is Garth One Eye. I have a Garth One Eye deck that is not at all based around Garth One Eye. Garth is a great commander for people who are playing a 5-color deck but don't actually care about their commander. For example, I mentioned my Broodkeeper deck earlier. That has Garth at the helm. Not because Garth is good in the deck, God no, but because he does enough without being too conspicuous. I tried that deck with Eska and I got immediately targeted. So Garth, he's pretty neat. I'm thinking of putting him in B tier below the Child. For one reason only, and that's that after you tap him like 6 times, he becomes a blank piece of cardboard. And also you still need the mana to cast all the stuff he gives. So he's not like too crazy, so he'll sit comfortably in B tier for now. Next we've got whatever this one is, I don't know the name. It's the one that lets you play elementals. I don't know, I just feel like this one's just weaker than Morphon. Because you can just play Morphon if you want to play 5-color elementals, and then you can just have this in the 99, and then you can cast it for free. So, I don't know where to put it. That being said, Graveyard Elementals is super funny, and Elementals are a pretty cool tribe. So, I'll just put it at the bottom of A tier. Progenitus. This one is tough, because on one hand, it's Progenitus. It has protection from everything. Like, come on. But on the other hand, if you have this in the command zone, you're never going to cast it, because you're going to need to ramp like crazy, but you also need to get specific colors of mana. You need 2 of each. So this card is much better in the 99s of decks of like Giganta, Ramos, Eska, and other ones that can easily like fetch it out. But in the command zone itself, this one just isn't very good. Because another thing is you can't really build a deck around it. Because like even with like some of the weaker ones like Chromat and some of the Hell tier ones, you can build a deck around that. Like, pretty much all you can do with Progenitus is, like, Avatar, Tribal, or whatever creature type this is, or, like, just getting a ton of mana and then casting it and then losing because your opponent played Descent Upon the Sinful. I hate that card. So I'm going to put this one in D tier. I'm going to put it above here, though, because it is still Progenitus. Next we have Goshen, Kai of Life's Origin. This one is new with Neon Dynasty, and I have never played against it or with it, so I don't know how to evaluate it. I will say this card seems super frustrating to play against because some of the effects of the shrines are the worst. And this one not only lets you cheat them into play and like pull them out, but also doubles up your shrines essentially. So that one shrine that makes you discard, now it's going to make you discard effectively twice as many as it would before. And Goshen doesn't have to be on the battlefield to do that. It just has to be on the battlefield when you cast the shrine. So it seems annoying, but it does seem fun. But one issue I have is it seems like it's one where at least for a repetitive gameplay pattern. I know I brought this up with Sisei and Scion of the Earth Dragon, but any command that's based around tutoring repeatedly just leaves itself to be repetitive, which is fun for a few games. But really, there's just not a lot of variety. That being said, those are a lot of negatives. But it is the first actual Shrine commander. And Shrine is a cool deck type that I wanted to build around for a while. So I don't know. I think I'll put it in the bottom of B tier. I might change my opinion when I play with it or against it. But for now, I'm just going to put it here. Now we have Kyodai, Soul of Kamigawa, or whatever this is called. This commander is really bad, I'm not going to lie. From a power level standpoint, there's just no reason to run this over another 5-color commander. Because, like to say, it's easier to cast because you only need one color. But its ability is just another permanent you control has indestructible while you have it on the battlefield. And you can also pay Ruberg to pump this card up. That is so disappointing. If I could give this +5/+5 until end of turn, or Jodah could cast any card from my hand for free. So, this one is better if you're out of cards than Jodah. But also, like, come on. You're not really doing anything. But I will admit, and there is some jank potential here. So I don't want to put it in the bottom of D tier. So I'm going to put it above Chromat because it at least does something. And it isn't close to Hell tier like this. I'm just going to go and move this one down to Hell tier. Like, come on. Next you have a Tagatog. This one goes to the bottomer of D tier. Because this is one of those funny commanders that you look at it and you're like, oh, jank Atog tribal. The issue with Atogs is that every single Atog has this deal where in order you sacrifice other permanents to give them temporary boosts. Sometimes you sacrifice your turn. The issue with that is if you do that, you're going to either A, run out of permanents really fast, or B, have a bunch of creatures that don't do anything. The one trick with this commander that you can do is you can play a bunch of Atogs and then attack someone with Atog, give them a blockable, and sacrifice all the Atogs to make it 21 power. The issue with that is if you're going to do that in 5-color, you could always just, play the Ur-Dragon. So that's really its main problem. Another issue is that if you're going to play a bunch of Atogs, most of them require enchantments or artifacts or some other type to sacrifice, which you can't really do if you're running a bunch of creatures. And you're not going to want to sacrifice your your anthems or anything. So really, there's just not a whole lot you can really do with a Tagatog, which is why it's down here. It's kind of a trap. Next we have General Tazri. This is the one that's about... this one's the party one, Beacon of Unity. This one is Ally Tribal. Unlike Atog Tribal, allies actually do something. That being said, I'm pretty sure this is a tutor commander. So, negative points, but jank tribes are jank tribes. And I don't know what it is with 5-color commanders and being like white in the casting cost. So I don't know. I've actually never played with this card. I've never played as allies or against allies, so I don't have a lot of standing ground here. I think this goes in B tier. I'm going to put it above Sisei because cool tribe and also cool effect, but repetitive gameplay. But unlike Sisei, it's actually fun. So next up, Corona False God. This is also going in God tier. I'm going to keep it below Morphon, though. This is the first time in the official tier list series we had 2 items in God tier. So why is Corona False God epic? Well, because if you play this card as your commander, you instantly make friends with everyone on the table because you give them a free massive creature at the start of their turn that also buffs up their entire board. But, okay, message to Corona False God players. If you're running Bloodthirsty Blade in this deck, I need you to stop. Because it just does not work. Bloodthirsty Blade is not a card that functions because you cannot equip it to Corona False God. I had a friend who played a deck like this, and he played like a tribal deck, and he swung for like 50. That was pretty cool. Assault Suit is funny in this deck. There's just a lot of ways. You can go Pillow Fort, you can go full aggro, you can go like Slider on the Table Voltron, you can just go Chaos. There's a lot of avenues that this card has without being overly broken, which is what I liked about Morphon, which is why it's God tier. Next we have Sliver Overlord. I hate playing against Slivers, but they are funny. The first Sliver was like insta-win. This one's like not as bad. Okay, what am I saying? This one is absolutely bad. Because it's just, tutor for Slivers. So that's really lame, if I'm being honest. So I don't want to clog up Hell tier unless I have to. So this one's a little bit better though, because one, you have to. What am I saying? This is not better. Hell tier all the way. I'm trying to make up excuses. This is Hell tier. Next, I have the Reaper King, also Hell tier. One of my friends plays almost exclusively decks that try to prevent other people from playing the game. One of his favorites was the Reaper King because he would just blow up all the permanents on the board. That led to our playgroup having a kill on sight reputation for this card, and then he started getting upset. But whatever. Reaper King is super annoying to play against because they play the Reaper King, and then if it's still on their board, then you no longer have a board. Yeah, Hell tier all the way. Scarecrows are funny, but that's not enough to save it from Hell tier. Sliver Queen. It can go right with all the other Sliver commanders that aren't janky, right in Hell tier. It's probably the least egregious though, so that's pretty neat. We have Cody. Cody is S tier. I mean, come on, it's Cody. You can't play permanent spells as a funny line of text, and it's like Jagantha, where it just adds a ton of mana and lets you do all this sorts of cool stuff. It's a card you really have to build around. It's kind of janky, but also it's very, very fun. So S tier. Next, we have the Sliver Legion, I believe. This one is actually a Sliver commander that I am down with. I know the other ones, I was like, well, they're awful. But this one's kind of like this one, the Sliver Hive Lord, where it's kind of bad. But that's kind of makes it a good thing, because Sliver commanders like this that let you get more Slivers are the worst. But Slivers that buff up your Slivers are cool. I'm going to put this one up right above the Sliver Hive Lord, because this one actually has a more noticeable effect. And it's also more underplayed. So yeah, that's the last of the Slivers. Next, you have Niv-Mizzet Reborn. I am going to be honest. I do not think that this is a good card. Maybe it is in the 99 of some decks, but really you'd have to play a bunch of just colored pairs that are different to get this card to work. And the thing is with a bunch of different colored pairs is that a lot of them don't really work well together. So, the issue is you got this big dragon avatar, and you have to get Wooburg to cast him. And then at that point, you already then you have to put those cards in your hand too. So you just draw a bunch of cards. So you pay 5 mana, and you just usually you draw like 5 cards or something. That's 5 for 5 is pretty good, but also that's the whole commander. Like that's it. That's all you get to do. So I'm gonna put this one in D tier. I'm gonna put it above Progenitus though, because at least this one is cool. Has cooler art. Next, finally, we have Tazri, Beacon of Unity. Party is a cool mechanic that is kind of underutilized. I would say it's because it's underplayed, but honestly, Party is kind of poo-poo. But, I mean, I don't know. I've never played as this card. I'll just do what I normally do. I don't know what to do with something, and I'll put it at the bottom of C tier. And that's actually it. So this was a longer one than the last one by a lot. Key takeaways is that I'm always right. Repetitive tutoring is kind of poopy. Cards that enable jank while also can be played optimal are super cool. And if you play Slivers or Ramos or Kenrith or the Reaper King, go die. Alright, till next time. Toodles.